Hello, welcome. I am doing a vlog that I've seen plenty of other people do. 24-hour vlog, but like the timer challenge rather than staying up 24 actual hours, because at the ripe old age of 25, I can no longer pull an all-nighter. I simply can't. I go to bed at a reasonable time, which is usually like 10 to 11 p.m. But it is Friday night. I have a 4-day weekend, so I figured if I'm going to do a challenge like this, now would be the optimal time to do so. So I plan on using my stopwatch, which is not started yet because I haven't started reading, and use that until it reaches 24 hours. I don't honestly think I'll do it in the 4 days that I have off. It'll probably bleed over into when I go back to work. And that'll make things a little complicated just because I do read at work sometimes, but like while things are loading. So like I'm reading a paragraph at a time and then setting the book down, which I know is psychotic, but I do it anyways. And with that like really sporadic reading that I do during work, it really isn't cohesive with the stopwatch. So I think what I'm just gonna have to do, if it comes to that, I just won't include whatever I'm reading at work in the page count for the 24 hours, because I won't be turning on the stopwatch thingamajig every time I read a paragraph. I just know I won't do that. So we'll see how much I can get done before I go back to work though. And as far as reading plans go, I just have two things. Usually I pick stuff at random, but the first one I have is for my other vlog, which is the 100 book bucket list. I'm currently reading The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, but I'm 75 pages in and this is like 120 some pages, so I don't have very far to go. I won't be talking too much about this in this vlog. Right now it's just about just a guy fishing. That's it. And I think that's all it's gonna be. But as far as my other plan, I do have a library book out. It is the newest volume of Chainsaw Man. Let me see what volume that actually is. Volume 18, which I will read very quickly. That's what I'll read after I finish The Old Man and the Sea, just so I can return it and whoever is next in line can have it sooner than the 21 days that I have it loaned out for. Hopefully I'll enjoy that. I don't actually know, because the first like arc of Chainsaw Man with the public safety division was so fantastic. I loved it. I was obsessed. A flawless arc, might I say. However, after that, in the whatever arc we're currently in now, things went downhill. Like the beginning was good, and now I just kind of don't know what's going on anymore. And I honestly kind of don't care. I was upset about something that happened in the last volume, but maybe it didn't actually happen. Maybe they'll be like, psych, you thought this thing happened, but actually everybody's fine. We'll see. But hopefully, you know, I really hope that Chainsaw Man doesn't keep going in the kind of downhill direction that it is, because the ending, everything that occurred in the first arc left so many possibilities and so many loose ends that needed to be tied up, and that I was so excited to see come back around. And that hasn't occurred yet, but look, the author still has the opportunity to bring everything back in, because I felt like I was being promised something at the end of that first arc and it hasn't happened yet. So Mr. Fujimoto, I'm gonna need you to make good on your promises. But yeah, other than those two, I don't have any specific plans. I do like to switch between a project book and a just regular fun book, not including my library loans. So I will be picking something random off my just overall TBR after I finish those two, and then if I've finished all three of those within the 24 hours, then I'll go back to something for the 100 book bucket list challenge, unless I get another loan out from the library. that's also a possibility because I do have the next volume and the most recent volume, I believe, of Kaiju number 8 and the most recent volume of Jujutsu Kaisen both on hold. So depending on how fast whoever has them out reads them, I could be getting to those in this vlog as well. But yeah, that's it. Those are all the plans. Nothing super specific, but I will probably read a little bit tonight before I go to sleep, a little bit of this tonight before I go to sleep, and I'll start my timer at that point. Hopefully this doesn't take me too long, but we will just have to find out. And I'll update you guys once I've made some progress. Most likely once I finish this. I won't be giving too many thoughts, but I'll at least update and say how far I've gotten into the stopwatch. Bye. Hi, I'm back. It is the next night, and I admittedly have not made a lot of progress in the 24 hours. I'm actually only an hour and 29 minutes in, so about an hour and a half. We'll see how long this takes me, because it's been a full day and I've only read an hour and a half, but I did finish The Old Man and the Sea. by Ernest Hemingway. I'm not going into my thoughts. I did ultimately give this 3 stars, but it is finished and I can move on to the next book, which will be the next volume of Chainsaw Man. I mentioned what volume it was before. I can't remember, but to, I guess, update on the page count, when I started this challenge, I was 74 pages in. This is 127 pages, so real quick, gotta do some math. 53 pages has been read so far for this challenge. That's how much I read in an hour and a half. I know some people read way faster than me, like they read 100 pages every hour or a page per minute, something like that. Yeah, I'm not a super fast reader, but I think 53 pages of a classic, not that this is very difficult to read, but of a classic nonetheless, is a good enough pace. But that is finished. I did, like I said, not read too much today. I do plan on reading more tonight. I'll probably just read all of the Chainsaw Man volume tonight because it's pretty quick to get through. But I did have some things to do this morning, or today. I volunteer with my local SPCA. Every Saturday, went to that adoption fair. I transport the animals as well to and from the actual event, so that takes up a good 4 hours of my time, getting everybody to and from and doing the actual adoption fair and then getting them back. But I enjoy that. I am a bit tired just because I had a bigger guy today. He was pretty calm overall. His name's Bogart, but this was like his first time in a in-store adoption fair. He's been to other ones that were outdoors, but I think he was really excited about all the smells. I ended up getting him a bully stick. He ate the entire thing. I hope he enjoyed. But yeah, that took up a good portion of my time, and like I said, I got a little tired afterwards because he is a heavy boy and he pulled when he wanted to sniff. But I had a good time. I like Bogart and his big head. But yeah, I've been a little tired. That's why I haven't read a whole bunch. I also did start the Fred and Rosemary West docu-series that's on Netflix. And I finished an anime last night. I'm just constantly consuming some form of media, books, shows, whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I have been doing other things besides reading, so we'll see. Hopefully, I still have 3 days off. Tomorrow I don't have too much to do. I may be going to a little festival, depends on whether I can get someone to go with me or not. So I may be going to that, not that that's gonna like take up the entire day probably. I've never been and I don't think it's the hugest thing in the world. Other than that, I do have some chores to do, but I'll be in my apartment for those, and hopefully I can make some progress in whatever my next read is going to be after Chainsaw Man. I guess I can go ahead and decide that since I know that I'll be starting something new tomorrow. So let me get my random number generator pulled up and my spreadsheet of a ridiculous number of books that I have unread, and I'll decide using that. You know, Google used to just automatically pull up a random number generator. It's not doing that anymore, which is annoying because I'm not convinced that the random number generator that I have currently, which is just the first one that pops up when I search random number generator in Google, but I'm not convinced that it's actually random because it seems to always give me low numbers, which is weird, but whatever, we'll see. Maybe it won't do that this time. It didn't do that this time. It proved me wrong. Okay, it's a longer book. Let me go grab it. Okay, I have it. It is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is, let's see where the book actually ends. Just under 500 pages. This is 148 pages. This is a thriller, but with some a twist, because I'm not always the biggest thriller fan. I know that a lot of people don't like this because I believe there's like fat phobia in it, so I'll keep an eye out for that. But it's just an interesting concept, and I did get this at a thrift store. Apparently there's kind of a time loop. Evelyn Hardcastle is killed at what I believe is some sort of manor. It doesn't tell me. I think it's some sort of manor, but that day that she's killed starts over again every day until the main character can figure out who the killer is, and each day the main character wakes up in a different person's body that's in the proximity of the murder, if that makes sense. So that's why this is intriguing to me, but we'll see if I like it. It is longer than most mystery thrillers. I also have never read from Stuart Turton before, though I will say his most recent book also heard mixed things about, but The Last Murder at the End of the World sounds very interesting as well, and it's got a bit of a sci-fi twist. So we'll see. Like, he's definitely an author that with the plots that he gives, I'm intrigued, but I'll have to see how I like this to see if I want to pick up his other stuff, because maybe he just has interesting synopsises and doesn't deliver. That's a possibility, but hopefully he does deliver. If not, then the $2 I spent on this are not a huge loss, so that's fine. But yeah, so that will be my next read. Since this is so long, I mean, I could do the math and tell you whether or not, based on my reading pace, I can get this done within the 24 hours, but math is hard and I don't want to do that. So since this is kind of long, I don't know how much I'll get to afterwards. I feel like I'll probably finish this within the 24-hour span, but we'll just have to see. It might take me a little bit. It might be, I don't think it'll be the last book in this vlog, realistically. Like I said, I'm not doing the math, but my brain automatically has done some math, and I think that I can get to other stuff. I think maybe I won't finish anything after this, though. I could be wrong. Like I said, math is hard. But yeah, I will update you all again once I've finished Chainsaw Man, but I'm probably gonna read that like before bed, and I'm too lazy to update before I go to sleep. So I'll probably update you in the morning with how much longer I've gotten into the 24 hours after completing the next volume of Chainsaw Man. But for now, that is all. Those are the plans. That is the update, and I'll see you later. Bye. Hi, welcome back. I changed angles just because I didn't want it to be the exact same. So you're seeing where I usually film with my monitor and my unfinished gallery wall and my poor lighting. But it is now Sunday evening, and I really do think this is challenge is going to be a struggle, because I am 4 hours and 15 minutes into the 24 hours. I do still have 2 days off, okay? I have some appointments tomorrow, but Tuesday my appointment got canceled, so I'm completely free then. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as an update goes, I did read all of Chainsaw Man volume 18 last night. It took me about an hour to read, and it was better than the last couple ones. But yeah, it was definitely better than the last couple ones. I like kind of the plot of this one a little bit more. It wasn't as confusing, because some of the last ones I'm like, I feel like I've missed something. or it's just not being explained thoroughly. It might also have to do with the fact that now that I'm caught up, I'm reading them as they come out, and whereas before I was reading them all back to back, so I could just be forgetting stuff. But this one, despite what I may or may not have forgot, it had an interesting enough plot and the action was interesting enough. There were some silly moments, like there's this couple of times where somebody's like pushing someone away from danger, but like instead of just pushing them, she's like literally like beating them up. Like she's kind of punching them to get them to move, and it's so dumb. And Chainsaw Man does tend to do like just silly stuff like that. As far as where things go from here, hopefully it continues on this vein where it's like more interesting and less it's all over the place like it has been. But we'll have to see. The next volume probably, I don't think, comes out for another few months, or at least in English, in the like published in the USA. But yeah, I finished that last night. And then the other like hour and a half, I guess, I've been reading 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I started this morning, and I am exactly 50 pages into it. I haven't even completed day 1 yet, but I might as well mention that I started it, and right now I'm actually really enjoying it. I really like this guy's writing. I'm not sure what time period this is set in. It seems like it must be late 1800s, early 1900s, but it doesn't say it explicitly. It's just, it feels a little older Britain, not modern Britain. They're also in like this rundown estate, which makes this really atmospheric. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. I have seen some of like that fat phobia that was mentioned, like just with the descriptions of fat characters being kind of crude, but it wasn't anything massive that happened. It was just one guy that was there for like a minute. It was unnecessary. Like you don't need to be, you can call somebody fat and describe them that way without being rude. But I also don't know if I'm necessarily supposed to like the main character. He's definitely already has some flaws, but at this point in the story, we don't really know anything about him, because he's just randomly woken up in this body with no memories, and this is not his body because it mentions the main character's name on the back of the book, but he doesn't know that name yet at this point. So we're just learning everything along with him, and I find it very interesting. I'm excited to continue. I'll definitely continue more tonight, but yeah, I just wanted to give an update as far as how far I've gotten. Again, 20 hours left to go, so we'll see how I do there. I know on Tuesday, Gavin Reads It All is having Patreon reading sprints, and since I have the day off, then I'll be able to participate in all of those, and that'll give me a little more motivation to actually like sit down and do large chunks of reading. So that'll help, but for now, I finished 2 books so far. Chainsaw Man was like 185 pages, flew through it pretty quickly, and I have made a small dent into this one. I'll update tomorrow after I've done some more reading, maybe after I've gotten through like a few days, since this is the 7.5 Death of Evelyn Hardcastle. I imagine there's 7.5 days. I guess that would make the most sense. So yeah, I'll just update after I've made some more progress and I have more thoughts to give and more reading times to update on. But for now, that is all, and I will see you guys in a bit. Bye. don't know if you can hear them, but the cats are eating. They're smacking a little bit. I'm back. It is Tuesday, so today was my last day off. It's in the afternoon. I have gotten 9 hours and 42 minutes into the stopwatch. So this is obviously gonna take me some time, and it's gonna go into my work week. That's fine. I figured it would. I assumed I would have made more progress than I have, but I know that I don't like just sit down and read like large chunks at a time. I'm not that kind of person. I'll read a few chapters at a time and just like sporadically pick the book up throughout my day. So I don't know what I expected from myself, but we're a little over a third into the timer now, and I am not quite halfway through with the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I'm still enjoying it. I did get through the portion that's like I heard about that was really fat phobic, and I understand the distaste for it, because I mentioned briefly, like, he described a fat character and it was like crude the way he was talking about it. And on one of these days, the person whose body he wakes up in is that character, and it's just like an over exaggeration of the effort it takes to do stuff, and like he's disgusted with himself, and he brings it up time and time again, and it's unnecessary, it's rude. So I definitely understand why people dislike that. He's an interesting character, the guy that he's in the mind of. Like, he's not necessarily a good person, but he's interesting and he's smart. But yeah, just like, you can I feel like it could have been mentioned that in like a more respectful way, you can acknowledge that this guy is fat, and that because of that, certain actions are more difficult. Like, you're not just gonna go sprinting after somebody, but you can acknowledge it once and be done. It doesn't need to be brought up every other page. So I definitely understand the distaste for that. It is distasteful, and I don't know if that's just Stuart Turton, the author, in general, because I've never read any of his other books. It could be something that's a running theme. He's just fat phobic in general, or it could be the main character that's portraying. I'm not sure, because I'd have to read something else from him to know. And like I said, the main character isn't like a perfect person by any means, and he's also seeing, like, kind of absorbing attributes of each of the hosts' like minds and way of thinking. So he's not only has his own flaws, he's getting the flaws of the other people as well. Like, one's kind of a coward, one's a piece of shit. So he's kind of, that's there. So I don't know if it could be attributed to that. Either way, it was unnecessary, and so I get why people don't like this book for that reason. Luckily, where I'm at now, we are no longer in that host, so we're not getting that constant judgment that we were while we were in that character's body. As far as the book overall, I'm still, despite that, I am still really enjoying it, because I like minus the fat phobia, the writing is good. I enjoy it. I think these characters are all really interesting, and they've all got some weird ass secrets. This is like slightly more fantastical than I realized. Like, there's this mysterious guy that's like talking to him and explaining the rules of how he has to solve this murder, and there's another person who's apparently out to hunt him. So like, there's kind of magical elements that I don't expect to actually be explained, but they make the atmosphere even more like kind of spooky, kind of eerie, because we're in this decrepit mansion. And I mean, overall, this is like, I think I refer to it as a thriller. It's a murder mystery. It's giving me very much like Agatha Christie kind of vibes, so I'm definitely enjoying that. I don't have really any theories with the amount that we're moving around in this book with all the other elements. I don't think I'm really pushing to have any theories. I'm just along for the ride because, like I said, we're at the first update, we're just dumped in, not knowing any of the rules and then learning them along the way. The main character is learning things about himself along the way as well. He woke up not even knowing his name. He doesn't know his relationship to any of these people. So we're just uncovering all kinds of things at different times, and I'm just here for the ride. I'm still really enjoying it despite its unfortunate gaze on fat people, but hopefully, I mean, since we've moved past him being in that character's body, we won't really have to deal with that as much in the future. And I'm excited to see what this is all about. I hope the ending wraps up well, because I guess that could really make or break it, since we know that this person is murdered by the end of the night, but we don't know who did it, really how it occurred, and how this character's actions being in this time loop may change the way it occurs, if that makes any sense. Like what his choices throughout the day that he's experiencing may contribute to said murder, or some of the events that he's seen earlier in earlier lives. So it's kind of trippy, but I'm really enjoying it, and I will continue reading this when I am at home and able to turn on the timer. I think my conclusion and how to continue this when I go back to work, when I bring a book with me to work, I'm just gonna bring a different one for a different video and not turn on the timer with that. I'm only going to turn on the timer when I'm reading books at home and am reasonably able to turn on the timer. So yes, my progress may be a little bit slower now since half of my day is going to be spent at work, but either way I will continue with the stopwatch and see how much I can get done in 24 hours. And I will update once I have made some more progress in that. Okay, I'm back. I got a bird feeder, so the cat is watching the birds. There's also a chipmunk that pretty much lives on my patio at this point, so they're having a great time. But I finished the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I am ultimately giving this 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. And as far as the time goes, I am 19 hours and 38 minutes in. So that means I have about 4.5 hours left. But to go over my thoughts about this, like I said, I did really end up enjoying it. I think the concept is just so interesting. I did have some issues with it. Obviously, the fat phobia, it was really excessive and unnecessary. That was mainly in that section where he was in the fat character's body. After that, like, people would refer to him as fat, but that's about it. So that's not the entirety of the book, luckily, but it is obviously an issue. And again, I don't know if this is something that's recurring in Stuart Turton's work, because I haven't read any more. Apparently this was his debut, which is surprising to me, because it's like he really chose a complicated plot to turn into his first ever book, and I think he succeeded. He did good. My camera battery is about to die, so I'm gonna try and get through this as fast as I can. I'd say, like, the mystery, it's a whodunit kind of thing, but I didn't expect, just based on the concept and the things that were being withheld, I didn't expect to actually figure it out myself. And parts of it I kind of did, parts of it I kind of didn't. It almost reminds me of like Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie, where you have the clues, but it's like also kind of absurd, where it's twist on twist on twist sort of thing. So to me, that's just fun. Again, I really love the writing style. It's like, I wouldn't call it flowery, but there are a lot of metaphors in it, and it's very atmospheric, specific, especially with everything being set at this manor, and then with the woods surrounding the manor and like this dreary English countryside. I really like the reason behind the time loop situation. I actually didn't think we were gonna get a reason. I was cool with that. A reason was given, and I find that really interesting. Honestly, I'm not gonna say the reason because it's a spoiler. You find it out like really late into the book. But if somebody had just said that, the reason itself, as the pitch or the concept behind a book, I would want to read that. It was really, it's really intriguing to me, and then just like theoretically interesting to think about as well. Talking about like ethically and stuff. There was like I feel like a message in some way behind this book, and I appreciate like the kind of food for thought part of it. I don't know if I necessarily agree completely with it, especially in like the situation in this book. Maybe in general I might be more agreeant with it, but I don't know. It just, the specific person that it involves and what they've done makes me a little hesitant to agree with it in the situation described in this book. But overall, I did like how it wrapped up. It didn't like give you every single possible answer. Like, there's more to come in these characters' stories, and that's very obvious. It's not gonna kind of wrap it up that way and see what happens to them after the events of the story. But to me, I don't think that's necessary. I think it would have been just, he would have been trying to pile in too much had he done that. So I think having the majority of it wrapped up was a good choice, but the loose ends that were there, I didn't care, because to me, the murder mystery, the thing we were there to solve, was solved. Anything else that happened afterwards is now up to my interpretation, and it doesn't matter. It wasn't necessary to this story. I'm glad he didn't try to like shove it in there. It's okay to leave things open-ended. I'm glad he did in this situation. So yeah, overall, I really did enjoy this. I want to pick up his other books. I know his most recent one has mixed reviews, but the second, his like sophomore novel, I read the synopsis of, or at least the first couple sentences, and it sounded weird as well. It's like a nautical murder mystery, and there may or may not be a demon on board the ship. So I want to read that now too. But real quick, before my battery does die, I want to choose my next book. my next like novel, because I am reading the newest volume of JJK because my hold came in, but that's only going to take me at most 2 hours. So I'll still have time to start something else after that. The angle and the lighting has changed because my camera did die. But I did want to just come back in real quick now that everything's charged up and say what it is I am going to read. I didn't wait. I did the random number generator and it chose Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I'm glad I'm finally getting around to reading one of her books because I think I own like 3 of them. I also find Ariadne to be an interesting character in Greek myth because she has to do with like the Minotaur and the labyrinth. She's the one that helped, I believe it was Theseus, navigate the labyrinth and kill the Minotaur. She has a really tragic ending like most Greek myths do, but I'm interested to see Jennifer Saint's kind of take on everything. I know people think that like the whole feminist Greek mythology retellings are overrated or outdone. Maybe it is. I haven't read a whole bunch of them and I love Greek mythology so much. I grew up on Percy Jackson, so I am kind of biased. I'm probably gonna like it, like unless the writing's just not good. I'm biased towards liking it just because it has to do with Greek myth. But I think the only other one that I've read comparable to this is Circe by Madeline Miller. I'm interested to see other authors' takes on this kind of book. And hopefully, again, hopefully I like this because I have 2 other books by her. I did get them on sale, so it's okay. But yes, that will be what I start reading after I finish Jujutsu Kaisen volume 26. It's the most recent one that has come out in the US, like published physically. I got it from the library because at this point in the series it's confusing. Like it's a lot of stuff happened in it that all seemed really separate and then somehow came together, and it's just like it's something about it, it just does not like kind of come together very well. Like it's not cohesive, that's the word I'm looking for. But I still, obviously I want to see how the series ends, so it's whatever. Like I'm not like head over heels die hard for it like I was like when season 2 came out, just like everybody else. But again, I want to see how the series ends. I know I've already been spoiled for something that happens, and I believe based on context that it happens in this volume I'm about to read, so I'm not happy about that. But that shouldn't take me too long. Like I said, probably at most 2 hours, because it might be a little longer than Chainsaw Man just because it is complicated. Sometimes there's just like full-on paragraphs of text that's trying to explain the magic system, but it's just like way too convoluted, and I have to read it like 3 times over. But so it might take a little longer than Chainsaw Man, but still probably at max 2 hours, which means I'll have good like 3 hours to get into this one. So I definitely won't be finishing this in this vlog, but I will definitely at least be making some progress in it, and I can give an update on what I'm feeling at the time that I reach the 24-hour mark. But since I only have like 4.5 hours to go, I'm close to the finish line. I should clarify, it's actually been a week since we last spoke. I finished the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle last night. Obviously I've not been reading as fast now that I'm back to work, but I've made decent enough progress in this like stopwatch that I don't feel like it's been going on forever, and now the finish line is in sight. I should have it done by the end of this week. But yeah, those are the plans. I just wanted to update, and I will let you know when I finish Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, so I am back with just a quick update as far as my timer goes, because I did finish volume 26 of JJK and it took me about an hour. I'm 20 hours and 36 minutes in. So I'll have 3 hours and 24 minutes to read as much as I can of Ariadne. As far as like my feelings go on JJK, obviously I can't say too much since this is close to the end of the series. I think there's only 30 volumes. I only have 4 left. I'm waiting for them to come out in the US. Yeah, I mentioned I was spoiled for something that was going to happen, and contextually I believed it would happen in this volume. I was right. It happened at the very end, so that was rude of Gege Akutami to do that to anyone, but I was prepared. I did like this volume better than like some of the previous ones as well. It was basically just one big fight, so I guess he couldn't do too much to confuse me there. Obviously, like with this magic system, the explanations can be really confusing sometimes, and there were those paragraphs of like explanation talking about how they're gonna avoid certain attacks and use certain techniques and stuff like that, but I've just come to expect that with Jujutsu Kaisen at this point. Oh, Chippy! I will get him on camera at one point, but I have a patio chipmunk. He's so cute. He comes by in the afternoon every day and he picks up the bird seed that's fallen. The cats love to watch him. Anyways, sorry, got distracted. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens next. I know it's probably gonna be more devastation, but as far as like the stuff that was confusing me majorly, that's mostly past. It's everything that's leading up to this. I mentioned that there were like a lot of things being done at the same time, and there were in like this culling game arc that we're in now. It's done like, and they're all supposed to be steps leading to a certain goal. My confusion comes into like, how did any of it actually lead to that goal being achieved? Because it doesn't seem like it did, and that's where I'm thrown off. Maybe it will make more sense when the manga is adapted. Maybe I just need to see it animated or like back to back for it to register how it's all connected in my brain, because I did some of the manga I read, you know, not directly at the same time. There were breaks. Right now I'm waiting for them to come out, so there's even longer breaks in between me reading each volume. But most of my confusion had to do with just what was leading up to this point and how it was relevant. As of right now, I'm not confused. I understand where the plot is, who we're fighting. Hopefully I won't get too confused again, because we still have people to defeat, but we'll just have to see. I don't know when the next volume comes out in the US. I imagine probably in 3 or 4 months. I'd have to check. Yeah, okay, I was right. It comes out in August, so I guess they come out pretty much quarterly, so I'll have to wait a few months for that, but I will be placing a notification in my library's app for when they get that in, and hopefully I won't have to wait too long. I know there's somebody else who also gets notifications when it comes into the library, because they beat me to this volume, but they didn't make me wait too long, so it's okay. But yes, I have about 3.5 hours left in the 24-hour timer, and I will make as much of a dent into Ariadne as I can in that time, and then I will come back to wrap all of this up. I am back, and I'm here to close out this vlog because I have in fact completed the 24-hour stopwatch that I had. 24 hours and 1 second. So in that time, I did get up to page 77 of Ariadne, and so I'll go over my feelings a little bit about this. I'm interested in it just because it is Greek myth. Overall, I'm always interested in that. I will say the writing is a bit to get used to because it's trying to be written kind of poetically, and I think it's pretty in some cases, but like in some cases I feel like the author is just trying too hard to make it sound poetic. She kind of plays with the sentence structure where I feel like things are kind of out of order. I'd have to find a specific sentence, and I know I read one, but I didn't tab it, so I can't remember what it was. But like, it's I don't want to compare it to how Yoda speaks, but it's like it was almost weirdly just seemed incorrect. I know it was supposed to sound poetic, but it's happened a couple times where I've like kind of had to pause and reread sentences because of the sentence structure. But it's not bad writing. It is also in first person past tense, which for whatever reason I sometimes have an issue with. Just my brain doesn't comprehend how they're like talking about events that like to me are currently happening, but they're talking about them with a bunch of hindsight and implementing foreshadowing, and for whatever reason it kind of trips me up. It always does. And it's not that I haven't read books like that and enjoyed it. Like Circe, I do believe is the same way, and it's one of my favorite books. But I know I read Kai, and it did a similar thing where we're kind of looking back at everything in hindsight, and I don't know what it is about it. I think maybe sometimes the foreshadowing can be a little heavy-handed in books like that, or sometimes the foreshadowing is just misleading in general. So I've always been a little iffy with that. Overall, I don't really know where the story is going because 77 pages in, we've pretty much concluded the main myth that I know Ariadne from, but there's still the majority of the book to go. I do know how her story ends. I don't know how she got there because it's not directly connected to the myth that of Theseus and the Minotaur. So I guess I'll be learning how she ended up where she did. The character Ariadne, as of now, she's still young. She's only 18. We saw her as a kid as well. And with this age, she is pretty naive. She hasn't really been outside of the palace ever. So that naivete, I understand that being there. It is kind of frustrating reading from a character who is so like trusting of other people when it's clear that she knows she can't trust other people. Like her father is not a good dude, and he has betrayed people in the past, so she's aware of the dangers of trusting men, and yet she does it anyways. And so that's frustrating to me as a reader, obviously having the foreshadowing to know that it's probably not going to work out well for her. But I imagine that's what the rest of the story is kind of going to be, growth from that and the repercussions of her trusting. I'm interested to see where it goes because, like I said, the part that's been covered already in the first like third of this book is pretty much all that I knew about Ariadne. There's another like 200 some pages for me to learn even more. So we'll see, and hopefully I can get more into, oh, I accidentally flipped forward and I realized that starting in part 2 of this, you start getting a second person's perspective. So I'm more intrigued now because I don't know anything about that person. So we'll just have to see. Hopefully the writing style will grow on me a little bit more, and I hope to give this a good rating because like I said, I do have the rest of Jennifer Saint's, or some of Jennifer Saint's other books on my physical TBR already. But just to recap this vlog, I did read a total of 5 things, or yeah, I read from a total of 5 things. I have these 3 books, The Old Man and the Sea, which I gave 3 stars, and I read the last 53 pages of this, and I gave it 3 stars. I read the 18th, I think, volume of Chainsaw Man, and I don't rate those, but that was about 187 pages. I read the entirety of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is 458 pages. I gave it 4 stars. I read volume 26, I believe, of Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, I don't give those ratings, but it was about 185 pages. And then I started Ariadne, and I've read 77 pages. So that comes out to a total of 960 pages in this 24-hour time, and that's an average of 40 pages per hour, which is definitely not the fastest, but I'd say it's a decent average. I know that I don't read as fast as a lot of other people do. I kind of get sidetracked in my own head. Even if I'm not going and doing something else, I'll just kind of zone out and start making up scenes in my head because I'm weird. But this was a cool experiment. Maybe one day I'll do it again and try and get my page count up, my pages per hour up, and see if I've progressed after a certain period of time, maybe like in another year or so, see if I've gotten faster. But it was interesting to try this out for one time, and I'm glad that I read what I did. I obviously pick stuff at random, but this was not on the top of my TBR. I'm really glad to have read it because it's just conceptually so interesting, and I think it definitely had its flaws, but it was well done, and I do want to check out Stuart Turton's other work. But yeah, that is all that I read in this 24 hours. So that will be it for this vlog. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.